I would like to welcome everyone to Lassonde Pappas' first State of the Beverage Industry webinar for 2017. We thank you for your participation in today's session and hope that our insights will be beneficial for you and your organization. For today's State of the Beverage Industry webinar, we have a guest speaker that we're very excited about, Steve Hefferan, Client Insights Consultant from IRi Worldwide. We'll be going through consumer trends, retail environment insights, product trends, private label and beverage trends, and then we'll also close with the Q&A session. Thanks again for tuning in.
Hello, everyone. Again, it's Steve Hefferan, and thanks for the introduction, Jamie, and thanks to everybody for having me here today. I am as they mentioned, I am the Client Insights Consultant and new team lead for the Lassonde and Apple and Eve businesses. I'm excited to be here, where what we do is introduce thought leadership, and it really is a general high-level view, which you'll see today across the trends that Jamie discussed. And what we do is we then leave it up for your interpretation. You know, you're going to get a chance to see how these trends affect you and your own personalization on your businesses, and then be able to bubble that information back through the team. And then we prioritize and we work across analytic priorities that will ultimately drive your company's return on information investment, and hopefully, you know, drive your partnership to new levels with your retailers. So really, really excited about getting started today. We'll jump right in, starting in on the consumer trends piece. You can see the first slide. This really isn't any surprise to anybody that you know, is familiar with what's going on in the world. We have seen sustained consumer confidence in terms of macroeconomic indicators, seen sustained real GDP growth, resulting in unemployment rates that have declined, you know, down to the lower levels that we're seeing now in 2016 over to the right at 4.9%. Since the election, analysts are very bullish about an uptick in the U.S. economic growth metrics, and we should continue to see a bullish economy going forward. That manifests itself in the Consumer Confidence Index, really achieving at its highest levels, you know, post the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, you know, up into the 98, 97 range, 2015 and 2016. You know, we've seen changes, and again, everybody's aware of this, but this is really some neat graphics that kind of emphasize this. In the 80s, we were at average household size of about 2.8 per household, and now we're down to about 2.5. The changing demographic is over there to the right, in that the traditional married with children household has declined significantly, nearly in half since 1980. Down to about 20%, and we've seen the emergence of single-person households, which have grown while married couples, you know, have shrunk. Next is inside of those households, what do we see? And we are seeing a boom in Hispanic. Everyone, again, a topic that everyone's aware of, has been hearing about for a long time. This chart really edifies that. Hispanic share of population has increased by over 10 points since the 80s, where there, you know, probably were a 7 share of the total U.S. population in the 80s, and now up to a 17 share. Interestingly enough, down below, you see Hispanics are estimated to reach 23% of the U.S. population by 2035. And the chart over to the right is really interesting, really makes this hit home, in the sense that of the growth between 2010 and 2020 in the U.S. population, 50% of that growth is Hispanic. So for every second child born is going to be Hispanic during that time. Really edifies that the Hispanic demographic is one that's going to be here, and is one that we need to plan for and recognize. When you look at the demographics in terms of age, Millennials certainly are becoming the largest CPG spenders. You see over to the left, everyone is aware that, you know, boomers are aging, and that's reflected in those numbers. Over 55 at the bottom, we increased from a 21% in 2000 to 28% of the population for boomers. But when you glance over to the right in terms of the share of the volume. You see exponential growth there from millennials in terms of their power of purchase, and that's going to equate them from a share of their CPG volume that's being spent to being almost equal to that of boomers by the time 2020 arrives. That's upwards of $290 billion of growth for millennials. So therefore, wanted to spend a few slides here talking about millennials and their importance, especially given some of their demographics and how they relate to our businesses in private label. When you look at the demographics here of millennials, Hispanics, and boomers who we just spoke of, what really pops here is obviously the economic state that most millennials are in. They're younger. As a result, they own less homes. They rent more frequently. They have a higher unemployment rate, and their income tends to be a little bit lower. So we wanted to blow out the millennial impact a little bit further with some pulling into resourcing that IRi does from some general topics, general studies that we do. And one of the big studies that we do every quarter, which will become part of the fabric that we share here, is our IRi Consumer Connect survey. And it is a survey that samples our panelists and asks them questions about sign of the times type questions that we can actually influence with partnership in with our key vendors, and they can influence the type of questions to kind of get the pulse of where we stand. Late in 2016, we asked questions centered around shopping behavior, and as you can see here, what I've highlighted is you see millennials as the darkest blue bar on the bottom of each of these questions, and these questions are related to money saving opportunities. Millennials really pop in an index versus the general population, which is the first bar, and your lightest blue bar, which is called total. They pop there in terms of wanting to get the lowest price option when buying groceries. They pop when buying food and beverages that are not my preferred brand because they are on sale, buying in bulk to save money. So these are very present and of mind with millennial consumers. It's very important considering everything that we saw from the previous page. And as a result, some of the work that we're going to see in a little bit that I'm going to share here at a very high level, we know that millennials are embracing private label through corollary studies as well as work that IRi has done. And they often are most prevalent to be heavy private label buyers. The premiumization of private label is something we're going to talk about here, and it's a definite opportunity we want to explore a little bit further. In terms of that view of millennials and private label, I think this slide really edifies this from Mintel. You can see that 94% of the total population has a likelihood to buy private label food or beverage, but millennials are indexing it at 97%. And this was one that really caught my attention, in that 42% of millennials agree that store brand food products are more innovative than name brand products. Millennials are more likely to buy store brand foods in general. So something, again, that we want to build on and consider as we interpret this data into our real world business activity, that millennials are certainly a group that is in the moment with private label, and how can we take advantage of that with future offerings. The last piece that I wanted to, before we bridge into the next section regarding retailer trends, since on that same theme of millennials, was very interesting to then see what are the attributes, and IRi can do this through our household panel tools, understand what the attributes are that millennials are most in tune with. What index is higher for millennials in terms of their set consideration? And as you can see here, I've listed some of these out: immune defense, iron, omega, pre and probiotic, energy, caffeine, organic, no antibiotic included. You will see this when we get to the product section, mirrors the overall themes that we're seeing in general from a product standpoint, that customers and consumers are more and more concerned with health-related benefits in their products and are willing to pay premiums for those. Next, I'm going to quick transition over to the retailer trend slide. Generally, our industry has been very flat. If you looked at this slide from a volume standpoint, you would see almost very little change in terms of growth over the last 5 years from CPG in terms of the total CPG growth. This is dollars, and we still are only manifesting somewhere in the 1% to 2% range. And even the growth that we are experiencing in our industry is really largely driven by price increases and by less promotion that's being done overall in the industry. So not a lot of significant innovative growth that's really been happening in our industry. When you look at from a retailer perspective in terms of who's driving that growth, we've highlighted convenience and dollar. Now, dollar has a much less share overall, but has really been experiencing significant growth at 7.5% CAGR over the last 3 years. Convenience is very, very interesting. It has a higher share at 12 overall of the total all outlet market, but its CAGR is very strong at 4.7 over the last 3 years. Convenience, we like to say at IRi, has changed. Traditionally, when we target our consumers, convenience was best known as Bubba, and Bubba was interested in tobacco and beef jerky, and it was that kind of a consumer. And you're going to see this when I talk about the product trend section. Convenience has really, really evolved. When you go into, and if you're in this area, which is Philadelphia market, Wawa is king. It's where they're based. But you've seen this explosion of perimeter and this explosion of fresh. It is reinventing itself in terms of how it presents itself and the needs that it offers to its shoppers. And it has no doubt manifested itself in explosive growth for them. We are going to spend some time now, though, on the topic that really is a buzz, and that is internet. And as you can see there in the bottom right corner, the internet CAGRs are very, very high at 15.1, off of a very low base given. But it is absolutely the buzz term that's out in the market right now. I think everyone thought that internet's coming. Well, as you're going to see, internet is here and is a real concern for our retailer partners. I will say that before I leave this slide is that club is among the lowest, and we do feel at IRi that there's interaction between the growth of internet and some of the declines or the more reduced growth, I should say, from a club perspective. Something that we're going to continue to watch, and we know the club is very concerned about. I'm going to jump to the next slide, which will start to kind of dive a little bit more on this whole theme of internet growth. There's been rapid expansion of CPG e-commerce, and it will continue to be expected. And it's really having a ripple effect through the retail industry. It's adding to this whole new omni-channel presence that's really prevalent in our industry. There's more places to shop than ever, and e-commerce is becoming a threat. When you look at this, I'm going to set this up left to right. 2015 is where we were. 2020 is a projection, and then 2022 out even further. The top piece is food and beverage e-commerce sales. The light blue is non-food e-commerce sales, and then the gray is brick and mortar sales. The shares are underneath. Take a look at the explosive growth of CPG e-commerce share. 2015, 1.4%, basically currently. In 2020, we're going to go to 5.0%, and then 2022 at 10%. It's really going to grow. Food and beverage, again, tracking a little bit behind that, but will begin to catch up and get its sea legs. 0.3, 2.7, and 5.5. So something, again, that our retailer customers, those of you that are on the phone, you want to be, I know you're aware of this topic, and the next slide really speaks to that, is when you look at Kroger, and this was just in November, Rod McMullen, the CEO of Kroger, spoke about at an industry conference about what Kroger was worried about 10 years ago versus now. And 10 years ago, they were focused really on one competitor, and everyone knows who he was speaking of at that time. But today, he's recognizing that there's threats from different areas, different buckets: restaurants, quick-serve restaurants, digital, internet. It's a threat that all of our retail partners are definitely concerned about and aware of. I want to dive a little bit deeper from a internet perspective and talk a little bit about Amazon and Walmart, just to give you a flavor of what's going on there. Amazon is planning for very, very large growth. They want to open 20 brick-and-mortar stores in the next 2 years, and then, if successful, opening as many as 2,000 over the next 10. They're rolling out Fresh in 17 cities. They're cutting delivery prices, which they've done started last October to $15 a month, and they have a really crazy aggressive pricing algorithm, which I want to just explain very, very briefly, which basically goes out and captures in the market the lowest price per ounce possible. So if Club is selling at a discounted rate, not at a discounted rate, but just leveraging cost efficiencies and passing that on to consumers, what we're seeing is that Amazon is going out and matching that to that, no matter, irregardless of the size. So you'll take volume type discount pricing and apply that to even the smallest of pricing. It's got everyone in the industry on notice. Walmart certainly has partnerships with Uber and Lyft. Very innovative way to begin getting more penetration through their internet sales. And then they've acquired Jet.com, who's really Amazon's largest competitor as well, which has a pricing algorithm of really the more you spend, the more you discount. So threats are out there. All of this coupled with the fact that impressions are everywhere now. They're way up. So in 1970, consumers saw 500 impressions of advertising a day, and now you're seeing 5,000. IRi is currently undergoing studies where we're looking at what the effectiveness is, how much are we really understanding of the 5,000, but it still is out there. There's 5,000 impressions a day. Bottom line is there's more vehicles and it's easier to buy now more than ever. As a result, our retailer partners, really must look to maximize their customer lifetime value. And I drew this from a consulting study that IRi did, which was very, very interesting. If you look at the bottom step, so to speak, that talks about the entry price when you reward your current customers to keep them. If you graduate to the fourth step, it costs 4 times the amount of spend to reactivate a customer that you've lost than it costs for you to reward your current customer. And then the middle steps, it costs twice as much to grow your current customers as to reward your current customers, and then 3 times as much to activate new shoppers as it costs to reward your current customers. So here is a real sweet spot in terms of our partnership with our retailer partners. We have a sweet spot here in private label where we have great brands and we can help build variety and retailer loyalty, I should say, inside of those partners. We have a license to win there and work together to help build the retailer loyalty. Once you have the loyalty, another key question is conversion, and this slide starts to get at that. I realize that not everyone here may have all of the consumer panel training. That's going to be a piece that Mike and I will be working on as we capture your feedback and begin to work on opportunities. But this slide really gets at, once you have a customer, 30%, the top two columns there that I have in the parentheses, 30% of a retailer's customers typically account for 75 to 80% of that retailer's total store sales. And even these important customers, as you look further over to their right, they only spend 25 to 50 cents of every dollar of their wallet at those retailers. So there's opportunities that we can win, and that also we can help our retailer partners win at by increasing the conversion that we talked about, but also increasing the loyalty of what they're spending with the retailers. The way to do that, you really need to know customers and consumers inside and out. We've moved to that level of complexity and personalization in today's world. Personalization and targeting are absolutely critical. There's questions that you need to know. Does a consumer shop? What holidays are most important? What media choices? Family size? Household income? What's in my basket? And I'm not going to read them. I'm not going to read every one of them out. But these are the questions that need to be answered and develop that one-to-one relationship to help conversion and help build that loyalty that we're speaking of. And Mike and I, again, with new tools that IRi is bringing, will be able to get at those insights quicker and faster for you, and look forward to the opportunity to work with you to, again, develop those analytic capabilities and return on investment. We're going to jump next into, let's see if I can get this right, from a product trend standpoint. We're going to hit very high, broad levels of product trends that we're seeing in the marketplace. One of them is premiumization. Premium players, of course, with the improved economic outlook, they win. That's historic. It's trendable, and we always see a record of that. You see IRi Shopper Sentiment Index, which is very close to what we saw from the Consumer Confidence Index at the top. And you can see how that's trended up over time. And as a result, you see a slide on premium tier share growth. We see that premium buckets of edible and non-edible have grown and prospered during this time. Simple and pure is another product trend that has really emerged. Consumers are seeking free-from products to limit the intake of harmful ingredients. So you see on the left there in that chart, the bottom is what the total edible growth rate is, 2.9%. But when you look at the free-from attributes, you can see the explosive growth that they've had during this time. Consumers also state, 53% of them state that labeling is very, very critical to their shopping experience. But then they also state that they feel like confusion reigns in terms from a packaging standpoint. It's an opportunity for us as marketers to be able to communicate our messaging more effectively. Simple ingredients is what they're looking for of what's in the package that they can get to. This is one of my favorite ones. You know, I have a lot of retail experience, as I kind of mentioned in the beginning, and it's really been fun to see the evolution of these trends put into action at retail. Mindful snacking continuing to grow, but yet taste is still the king. Consumers are buying portable, functional snacks that promote health and wellness. And take a look at Target. You know, everybody has seen this that goes to Target. The checkout lanes have changed. My kids don't want to go to the checkout lanes that have all the healthy items. They want to be in the candy, and they're harder to find at Target. You can see the before and after pictures there that has the mindful snacking theme in touch. You can see the emergence of certain product benefits. So packaged salad bowls have come more to light. Functional beverages, certainly a category that we know so well. In fact, over there on the left, very, very appealing and excited to see that over a one-year period last year, beverage viewed as a snack has gone up from 61% of consumers are now saying 64% view beverage as a snack. And I am no doubt convinced that that's due to the nature of the benefit of the beverages the functional beverages that are out and prevalent in the marketplace now. You see alternatives to the traditional chips. You know, you're seeing healthier foods. The key thing here is that taste is still crucial. So we have to have taste right in order to succeed. And you have a little image there that shows that merge of you want that space between taste good and good for you. 90.6% of consumers say that the taste is really, really crucial. Protein has been prevalent for a few years now, but you can see from 2006 out now through current that the general population is has gone from about 39 to up over 53, 54, 55% now are seeking foods that are high in protein. It's one of the hottest functional food trends in the United States. Protein is being called out on packaging and being inserted into everyday products that we use. And meat snacks is on the growth more than ever, largely driven by the fact of their protein benefit that they offer their consumers. Portable, ready-to-eat individual portions, somewhat similar to the trend that we talked about with the mindful snacking, but you are, more of than just the front end. You're seeing healthy snack zones. You're seeing cut fruit, in Whole Foods sections already prepared for you, on the go and ready for the consumers. Cheese and cold cuts, lunchable type packaging that's ready, and a healthier benefit that's portable and ready to go. Another emergence on the junk food junkier side of all this is you've seen this happen with cookies and candy, thins, bites, smaller sizes. Those companies have really taken advantage of the trend to meet indulgence. I want that indulgence. I'm treating myself so well by eating healthier and doing all the right things. I'm skipping a sandwich maybe at lunch, and I'm focusing on a salad and almonds, but I still want to treat myself during the day. And then what you've seen is really strong growth from these 100-calorie packs and these thins and product forms of that nature. They're meeting that indulgence need for consumers. Health and wellness choices, I can kind of breeze through this one, but wellness plans, of course, we talked about important. And here's some statistics. 52% of consumers want additional health benefits beyond nutrition. 44% want natural and organic. Important to note here on the organic that we've seen, consumers are very savvy and smart here. They want certified organic, and certified organic is doing well. Made from organic and not without that label is not performing at the same level that certified organic is. So consumers are discerning, and they know that. 49% want a serving of fruit or vegetables. 57% want snacks that contain vitamins and minerals. 60% snacking that delivers an energy boost. Again, this counts for beverages as well. 48% look for high in fiber. As a result, we've seen a slight outpace from healthier snacks and growth than in total than we have from indulgent snacks, 3.8 versus 3.4. Let's talk a little bit and switch gears onto private label. This is our buyer partner. She's sitting at the desk, and she's balancing, the needs of having to grow the category with the balance of national brands and private label brands. I think what we see from the private label side is how do we support and understand trends to help grow that loyalty through our product offerings and the way we make our go-to-market decisions in our programs. So to summarize, in terms of where we stand, the State of the Union, you can see here dollars on the left, units on the right. Yellow is the total store performance. Blue is the private label performance. I'll focus on the dollars. You can see that in 2012, 13, 14, you saw that the private label performance was stronger than the store performance in terms of growth. And now what you've seen is an emergence since 2015 and 16 with the rebounding economy is that the total store has outperformed private label. Again, as I said in the beginning, it is very much a cyclical function. We see this, and we've trended this over years. When the economy improves, you see a spike back. And I have no doubt that it will revert. But it also has us potentially looking for opportunities of growth with our retailer partners in private label to help them maintain that tightrope walk and that I mentioned in that balance. Here's the shares. And as you can see, private label is down. National brands in blue, private label in yellow from a total perspective. When you break that down by retailer, you see that, again, focus on dollar shares. They trend similarly. but grocery, club, drug, mass, dollar, and convenience on their way down. You see that private label point share varies by the regional or the class of trade outlet. So club is actually up in private label, and grocery holding flat, where mass is down, dollar's down somewhat, and drug and convenience are flat. So that's the breakdown from the total all outlet view that we saw previously to where we stand from a class of trade standpoint. In terms of the breakdown by department, this is going to get, the next slide here is going to give you an optic into understanding and decomposing those losses by department. So as you can see, beverage is out with a lower share of private label, but actually held up as better than most of the departments on a year-on-year change of private label share. So actually up 0.2, which is basically flat. So it really leaves us at a point where we want to understand where do we get growth from. And this leaves you, the previous slides leave you to believe that, we're not really doing anything right at private label at this point. We're flat, and that's stagnant, and that's an issue. But when you look at an interesting slide that we decomposed, really, really telling, it's my favorite slide in the deck, is when you decompose low, moderate, and premium in terms of its pricing tiers and value inside of branded versus private label. Take a look at what this is expressing, and branded is on the top. You see that branded is growing, up 3.4%, and it's accelerating as you get, the growth rate is accelerating as you get to the more premium tier. Private label, it's not growing in its base offerings, but look at that growth from a premium and moderate standpoint. It calls to attention that we have an opportunity to branch out here into more innovation and premium type offerings with our private label SKUs. This is really corroborated by FMI's recent studies. And they called out 10 key private label factors for 2017. I'm not going to review all 10 of them. They're on the next slide, but I'm going to breeze that given the time interest. But where what I did want to call out is that the FMI, really calls out as one of the big opportunities is that product customization is the biggest opportunity for private label growth. Matches what we kind of expressed there, and was we decompose that premium versus base decomposition of products. Millennials, as you can see from this slide, which I love, back to what we talked about in the beginning, are embracing private label and more likely to be heavy buyers. So let's set that up on this slide here. You see the percentage of people that buy private label, and in the bar chart right to the right of that, of the pie chart, you see that 10% of those are heavy buyers, 49% medium, 41% light. Then you go over and you decompose to the right what that looks like from a demographic standpoint. And there you can see millennials popping at 14% of their purchases inside of private label being heavy purchases. So there's a predisposition there at the millennial age group to buy private label, and for us, once we have them in that trial phase, to convert them, being that they are heavy users, to a lot of these product trends that we've talked about that we know millennials are very interested in, and capitalize on that. And then also, frankly, via the programs that we talked about with conversion and loyalty, keeping those folks with us. We have them trying as millennials. Let's hold them into the franchise with the offerings that we have. I'm going to breeze this will be part of the deck that you'll see, the overall 10 trends. And I want to get to, again, back to how we do that. And here is a slide as part of our consulting group that they've worked on that decomposes premium, mainstream, and value. Premium, think of inside a private label, offering them something at a price that they're willing to pay. We know that they want increased we know that they want increased benefit from the health and wellness topics. And there they are, you know, and from a premium standpoint, let's look at moving them up in our offerings potentially to value add, and it helps us differentiate from other retailers' partnerships. If we can be out there and increase their loyalty that way, it's a win-win for us and for our retailer partner. Mainstream, you know, getting there with a name brand equivalent if we're not already there, and then that's also a key to enhancing margins and then having our value option as well. All right, so the last section is just around beverage trends. And again, hitting this at a very, very high level. I know this is fast and I know it's high level, and the goal is for you to be thirsting, literally, as we talk about beverages for more. You know, we welcome that feedback to blow some of this stuff out and work closely with you. So again, we're going to hit beverage trends top line, and then we will open it back up for the last 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. So some key juice headlines to take away. Shelf-stable beverages, and that's total shelf-stable beverages, including water and coffee, has 2x the growth of general food right now. So it's a healthy environment for beverages, led by water and energy drinks are really the big drivers. When you decompose shelf-stable beverages, shelf-stable juices are improving, but still fairly flat, although recently outpacing refrigerated juices and drinks. A lot of the shelf-stable growth has been driven by distribution gains and merchandising. From a flavor standpoint, great for us. Coconut's a big driver, but cranberries and dark fruit, you'll see a slide dedicated to this in a few slides coming up here, as well as watermelon, are really driving the flavor growth. They're strong flavors. They're in the top 6 to 7 flavors overall anyway, but they're right up there at the top for growth. So really great lever for us to pull. And then organic antioxidant claims are growing as well. So matches what we saw from the general trend stuff that I pulled in. You know, we're seeing that here at the more micro level in terms of juices. Everybody's concerned about health and its benefits. So here's the slide again, just summarizing what I showed on the first page. Total edible up 0.8, and you see each of the functional department breakdowns there. Beverages up 2.7% in the top left. General food up 1.3%. Frozen down, flat to down. Refrigerated down 1.3. We define total hydration at IRi as the total beverage segment. So that includes milk, shelf-stable beverage, refrigerated beverage, and frozen. So these two are mutually exclusive, the previous slide versus this one, because they overlap, right? We're bringing in, we cross all of that to make a total hydration number. And when you look at that, shelf-stable beverages up 2.7, milk, frozen beverages down, refrigerated beverages only up slightly at plus 0.8. So healthy from a shelf-stable beverage. Then what we do is we decompose shelf-stable beverage. And this is where you can see it. This is an eye chart. Some of you guys will want to digest this if you're a lover of data like I am and really kind of live in it, to see the trend over the last 4 years. What it does here is it's associated by each of the colors is associated with each of the segments that make up that shelf-stable beverage set. And I'm going to call to your attention there that carbonated soft drinks and drink mixes are the two highlighted, circled in red. So I'm sorry, carbonated beverages and drink mixes are, drink mixes is the gray, minus 2.3% and minus 1.9%, and carbonated beverages are minus 0.4%. So they're highlighted in red in the column out to the right in terms of their sales change versus year ago. They are the two segments that are losing sales in our total shelf-stable set. Water and energy drinks are really on the move. Water is in pink. You can see its share evolve, and it's circled in green there. It went from a 12.9 share in 2013 up to a 14 share in 2016. And energy drinks down at the very bottom in green from a 12.2 to a 13.3. So strong growth in those segments. I wanted to touch on flavors, and as I mentioned before, and here's a slide. On your left is what are the total top flavors by dollar sales rank for the total beverage aisle, and you can see them there with dark fruits and cranberry at a 3rd position, coconut at a 6th position. But then when you look over to the right, that ranks the flavors based on their absolute change versus year ago. And you can see the strong growth of coconut, no doubt spurred on by its health benefits, which have been very present in the news. And then dark fruits, cranberry, again, right in our sweet spot. Great growth there, and something that we can build on. This is just a slide very similar to what we saw of the trending of the segment share inside of total shelf-stable beverages. This highlights what the trends are of private label's share of each of these segments, inside of each of those segments, right? So it very much mirrors what we kind of saw. Bottled water has grown from a category standpoint. It's growing in private label share as well, up from a 22.5 share to a 23.6 share. Shelf-stable juices has declined some right underneath of that, from a 10.4 share to a 9.2 share. So private label has been declining somewhat across a majority of the categories, but that's very close to mirroring what's going on with the category benefit. And then the last slide that I'm going to touch on before we cut to the Q&A, which should be right. Oh, can I go back one, Stacey? Thank you. Is just a high-level top line of what is explaining best the growth challenges in beverage. I'm not going to have a separate slide for each of these for the purpose of time, but we're seeing that at-home beverage consumption has flattened. People are getting, beverages from other places, quick serve. They might be juicing, things of that nature, which is definitely reducing the amount of beverages that they might be buying and slowing the growth down. There's certainly an overall decline of sugary drinks, so people are moving away from sugary drinks. Maybe that's what's driving water. I'm sure it has something to do with that. Consumption habits, again, same thing, substitutability. People are substituting different ways for their hydration than they may have currently done, and considering sugar and those factors. Growth in healthy and protein and energy, the segments that have that, are drawing more in. That's certainly the case with energy drinks, and we know millennials are very much in tune with that. And then consumers choosing as is fruit. More fruit consumption is up as opposed to juicing. So if I had to summarize before we turn it over to the Q&A, overall we've seen some basically sluggish growth in CPG. Value and convenience channels are driving the growth. As we talked about, look for internet. It is a huge growth engine going forward, and something that our retailer partners are going to be talking about. Private label shares are down slightly with the improving economy, but we expect that as cyclical and to trend back. But it does mean in the short term, though, that we do have to pay attention to the bullets below it. Loyalty is more important than ever for our retailer partners. With blurring channel lines, it's critical. Increasing that conversion is the key to success. To accomplish that, we need to understand our consumers and what they want more than ever. Personalizing and targeting, crucial. Catering to the groups that are winning, fishing where the fish are, so to speak. Millennials, Hispanics, boomers. Considering value and money saving. Premiumization is key. We talked a lot about how do we advance them, especially the millennials, and take advantage of their presence currently in private label and move them forward in terms of their premium benefits in their private label offerings. And wellness and snacking is outpacing indulgence. So all of that we heard about from a health and wellness standpoint. And I think that's it. I talked again about feedback, and at this point, Jamie or Mike, if you don't have anything, I'd love to turn it over to the Q&A session. I thank you everyone for your time. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks so much, Steve. At this point, we are going to open up the phone lines to any questions you might have. You can also use the raise hand feature, and we can unmute you. Yes, Larry.
Was all of the club data, specifically Sam's and BJ's, excluding Costco?
Yes, no, the club data that's included would include Costco because it's from a it's drawn from our panel.
So we have a question from Jennifer. Do Millennials?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good question that we looked into and didn't share here, but Walmart for years has claimed that they definitely own millennials when they have children, and millennials do change their shopping trends when they have children, but we can't make a correlation, so to speak, in terms of what exactly that they are buying without a further study. That would really involve, we can suspect that that's the case, and reasonably would, but we would want to quantify that, via a separate study that would allow us to understand the actual, behaviors of those groups when they do graduate to that next life stage.
Another question: are demographic shifts such as Hispanic growth affecting beverage flavor preferences, or is it more worldly and interested in unique flavors?
It's a great question. I was actually just on, I mentioned about some of our thought leaders that we'll be bringing in at a regular cadence going forward, very senior folks that do a lot of this. And Sally Lyons-White is one of those who's really viewed as an industry leader. We talked about this she talked about this at her presentation just a few weeks ago, which was a sneak peek. And you have seen the experiential attitude that has developed. And it's really driven by cultural shifts, and millennials are the ones that are driving that, and that they want to be, more in tune with trying new things. But definitely with the emergence of especially Hispanic, and knowing that the flavor skews and the palate differences that exist there, no doubt is driving that. So my answer to that question, long-winded, is that it's a combination of both. Great question, though.
Another question: is private label growth in coffee, is that dry coffee or liquid coffee?
That is a combination of both. Yes, it's all merged together.
And when I mean dry, that's ground coffee.
That's right.
Okay. At this time, all questions have been submitted and answered. We thank you again for tuning in to today's webinar. Everything will be, the final presentation and audio will be posted to the Lassonde Pappas website within the next 48 hours. Please feel free to share with anybody on your team. If you have any further questions, please reach out to your sales representative. You can also reach out to Michael Gold, our category manager. Thank you so much for tuning in.